All right, thank you very much. Very happy to be here today representing Calvio. I'm the deception strategist at Calvio, so helping CISOs deploy deception strategies in the world of the AI-assisted attacks we have right now. Detect and respond is just not quick enough. So we're working with CISOs to deploy traps, basically, so you make the hacker be perfect instead of the CISO and the team having to be perfect across a very large attack surface. Our CEO is here today. Ram, are you here? Rob's here, founder of the business. Please talk to him in a little bit and hear more about what we're doing. We're the leader in the Gartner space called preemptive cybersecurity. It's a great new category that helps you kind of deal with this AI onslaught that we're having right now. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our speaker here, Mack with TensorWave out of Las Vegas, a AI company as well that I believe is a target for AI sorts of attacks. So she's going to have a lot of great insight on what we can do to kind of protect against this new environment we're in. So with that, Cass, welcome.
Thank you. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about strategy today because I think it's really important for you, because what I'm noticing from my 18 months in the trenches at a NeoCloud is that I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And, managing on-prem data centers, modernizing, virtualizing, doing all this stuff with old legacy data centers. And I'm finding like everything that I thought was true and normal and, expected is absolutely not the new norm. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit about what we do and what I think you should be doing to make sure that you're ready for the coming storm. So essentially, I spend a lot of time in data centers that are being rehabbed because we can't pour concrete fast enough for the data center needs. And essentially, like companies like Meta and Microsoft or in Boise putting Kevlar tents up on old shopping malls because they can't pour concrete fast enough. So there's a lot of really crazy stuff going on, a lot of people cutting corners to get data centers up. And so one of my main messages to you is, do you have a strategy for the next 3, 5, or 10 years for your compute power? Because power, cooling, chilling, all that stuff is going up, and you're going to start seeing a lot of surcharges coming from the hyperscalers. So if all your eggs are in that basket, you might want to start thinking about what you're doing, because when you're moving from POC to actual board expectations of ROI, you're going to need more than one strategy, and you don't want to have all your stuff tied up in 3 regions at AWS. So I want to talk to you a little bit about neoclouds and middlemen, because I'd like to warn you about middlemen and the basements and the crypto mines that they're getting your compute power from, and some of the stuff that I've seen. So I'll just start with the neocloud. So we're TensorWave. We are a neocloud. We're very similar to CoreWave, except we're learning from their mistakes and kind of falling behind and, picking up the breadcrumbs and figuring out, what to do differently. We're exclusively partnered with AMD. And very much targeting the inference market, because AMD is very much fine-tuned and they have really fast memory. The VRAM is really good for inference. So what we're trying to do is help people basically differentiate and diversify their portfolio of AI compute. So we have people who are specifically designed to actually help handhold you to move you from the proprietary stack at NVIDIA over to AMD, and not to necessarily tell you to leave them, but to give yourself more options, right? Because you don't want to be at a point where you're getting charged 4 to 5 times more than you're getting charged now. You don't want to have power and cooling surcharges. There's a ton of other stuff going on. Public companies are now required to be sustainable in the data center market, which is impossible. I can tell you right now, one 10,000 GPU data center wastes about 3,500 gallons of water a day in chilling. So you imagine, how do we get sustainable on that, right? Especially when you're running hundreds of thousands of GPUs. So that cost of sustainability and them having to do that is going to come back to the customer. So you want to start thinking about, what am I doing to make sure that I'm not, eating up all of my cost or all of my margins and my ROI with emergency stuff that you have to buy later because your AI program has grown more than what you planned for. The other thing I wanted to talk about is you need to have right to audit and several other things in your contracts with these providers, because there's a lot of shady stuff going on because they cannot get these data centers up fast enough. So they're doing things, and I'm not saying the hyperscalers are doing this, but I'm saying, like, just looking across the neocloud market and some of the data centers I'm seeing, a lot of people are buying up power contracts, and they're going in, us included. We go in and we gut old buildings. So they're like old shopping malls, old banking buildings, on-prem data centers, phone companies. Because essentially they're the only ones sitting on power, and a lot of these buildings are abandoned. So we'll go in, put in a substation to clean the dirty power, and then we have a data center up in about 3 months. But what's happening is a lot of these colo providers are old legacy managers, and they don't really know how to do high performance computing. So they're taking shortcuts. So you'll get a SOC 2 report or an ISO 27001 report, and it will list these data centers on there. But when we go to audit them, because we're not going to do business with people that we don't know and verify are actually having data centers that are being run correctly for our customers, we see a ton of stuff that's not right. So I want to just caution you, right? Like wherever you're getting your stuff from, make sure your compliance and risk management program actually sends somebody out and has right to audit within your contract, because you want to know where your compute power is sitting is actually a data center that's functioning the way that you're expecting and the way that they've told you that they're doing it, because they do random sampling. So essentially what they're getting away with is they pick their flagship and maybe one other that's really close to being compliant, and they give them all, they basically like, baffle them with bullshit, give them all the stuff that they have to give them so they get distracted. And then they make a video of access controls and a few other things in these data centers that are lacking. And then the auditor basically is tired and is like, okay, that's good. And they move on. So you may have 13 data centers and maybe 3 of them are actually certified. So just be mindful of that. There's a couple of, can you guys still hear me? I have my cheat sheet because I have ADD and I actually forget about stuff. The other thing is sovereign AI is swooping in and taking up a lot of it, right? Like countries like Saudi Arabia, they have this massive push to be number one. So they're coming in and just wholesale buying entire data center fleets. And so it's compressing the market a lot more. And it's a little scary for us because we like to have compute power just sitting around so that the AI first companies can come and get what they need. And we typically give a free POC to any AI company that wants to try it out on the AMD platform, because we want to show you how easy it is and how good it is. So if anybody's like, trying to figure out if you really want to take that climb or anything like that, I'm happy to talk to you about that. The cooling requirements are out of this world. So there's just a lot of stuff outside of power that you're not really hearing about. So it's really important to dig in. I want to encourage, if you're running AI programs or you're planning to, really dig in and do your research so that you can have those conversations with your colleagues on the C level to really put a plan together so that you're covered. Because we're seeing a lot of people coming over that they're in the ecosystem at NVIDIA, they're on the hyperscalers, and they're realizing they can't get enough compute power right now because they're waiting in line behind these other big companies or these countries who are snatching up all the stuff. So, not to be too flippant about it, but we're just seeing a lot of really scared people coming to us and saying, like, what would it cost for us to get compute? And we have it available, but it's going to get worse and worse and worse everywhere you go. It's going to get to a point where you're not going to be able to get it. So just keep that in mind and have a strategy. And like an interesting fact is power consumption is going to be up 30 times by 2035. So like right now, if you consider, like we literally are buying up as many power contracts as we can, putting in as many substations as we can. And we're already behind. Like we're probably 6 months behind on every major customer commitment that we have. So we don't even have a salesperson. We don't need to sell. We literally have a pretty face that goes to the booth and hands out shirts. It's like that. It's the weirdest thing to me, coming from other places where you have to have a fleet of salespeople to sell stuff because there's just too much competition in the market. So on your contracts, it's important to shift from whatever you have now, because they're probably pay as you go or token based. You want to switch to something that's called an offtake agreement. You want guaranteed throughput for X number of years, as much as you can. I talked about right to audit. One other thing is there's a growing market of middlemen out there that are snatching up available compute in small little chunks. And what we're finding is a lot of people will come and say, I had my super heavy data laden workload with a middleman, and we found out that it was actually a crypto miner's basement, right? And they had zero protections whatsoever. So be really mindful about, if you have something that's really quick and dirty and you need really fast compute, that's a typical use case for like a middleman scenario. But it needs to be anonymized data. It needs to be, pseudo-anonymized, whatever you have to do to make sure that your data is in the right place and your risk strategy aligns with wherever you're buying this stuff from. I talked about auditing and not just samples. So it's really important that you have this optimization strategy as well. So a lot of people are not thinking about this yet, but your ROI is significantly going to be eaten away if you don't start optimizing your AI workloads. So what that means is not everything has to go on a GPU that's AI. You need to think about pre-processing, right? Is there stuff that I can do to cut down on the number of repeat requests that are going to the GPUs? So if somebody's there's like some hot topic in the news, right? Like the Iran war. Multiple people are constantly submitting the same query, right? So pre-processing to say, we already have this in the cache, And we don't need to go out 89 times to go ask for this right now. So those kinds of things significantly cut down on the amount of GPU that you're using. And really just going back to software basics, right? What can we do on input validation? What can we do on all these other things to cut down on the number of just stupid things that we're querying the GPUs for? So that's essentially my talk. And if anybody has questions, I'm happy to answer whatever you have.